Hey, time for another design. This is one I'm quite proud of my drawings anyway, because that's all the further it got. However, I don't think I did such a bad job, and I think I had a small influence on the design of this next car. In 1994, Mustang or Ford came out with the new style Mustang. The Fox body was finally finished, which I know it's called a Mustang, but as far as I was concerned, it sure had no business being called that. It wasn't like it was a bad car, it just shouldn't have been called a Mustang. Of course, the Mustang 2 shouldn't have been called a Mustang either. That was even a bigger embarrassment. Should have been anyway. So, interestingly enough, I'm taking art classes. And this is probably around 1990. Hot Rod Magazine comes out with a contest to design the next Mustang. And since I was taking art classes, and I thought I might have some ideas, because I sort of wanted to try to blend old and new. And I was, well, once we get done here, hopefully you'll agree with me that I was very much far ahead of the group in technology anyway. The look of my car is so-so, but the ideas that I had for it are just now finally becoming mainstream, if you will, as far as car design. So I took and thought, well, how would I like to see the next Mustang? And what came to mind to me was I'd like to see an old one, and I knew the one guy up in Tawnytown had a completely stock 1965 Mustang. And so I asked him if I could come in and make some drawings of it and get some ideas from him, because I was going to try to draw a car and put it in this contest. Now, as I'm drawing this thing, I made 3 views of it: a front, of course, a side, and a back view. I then had to try to figure out how to make and see, I can't even remember the proper term, but a realistic view of it, you might say, showing 3 sides at once. And pictorial view, I think, is what it's called. It's isometric and pictorial. So I took my ideas and put them together, and this is what I came up with. The car, as far as trying to pick up on the Mustang style, the air intakes, if you notice the step in the window there, that's on the 65. I actually have the vertical tail lights on it. This is how the headlights wrapped around. I don't know if it was actually a wraparound, but that's what it is here. I use the Mustang grill. However, there's no air passing through it. It's blocked off and it's angled back. And what I tried to do was when you're looking straight at it from the front, it would look the same as the grill would have looked on the 65. Then I have air intakes down underneath here. I curved, and I call it a C shape, to the back edge of the door. I felt that gave it a little more look. I know that this is not a popular thing, but I put the wheel well openings down over the wheels slightly for improved aerodynamics. And something more on of a modern look, I had solid wheels with a geometric shape in it. Now that shape has no meaning to it whatsoever, but I carry that design through inside the car as well. Also, because I didn't know how else to do it, I actually put bumpers on it. Now, in the back, the car actually had ground effects. In fact, these pieces right here go all the way across the back of the wheel to help pick the air up on it. And then also on the back I had I did say that, ground effects, which is the fins that come out so that it helps suck the car to the ground. Now those didn't actually always work, but let me go ahead and show you the interior, and then we'll talk about the technology in it. I only have the dash. I don't have the rest of it, although I had side panels drawn, or door panels drawn, but I can't find any of that stuff. It's been so long ago. Gotta realize that's back in 1990, and I've moved around some and everything else. So here's my dash. The shape you see here, the squared off, if you will, the sharp angles, that is very similar to what it looked like on the Mustang in 65. And then, and they were symmetrical from side to side on the back in 65, so I made it the same. In this case, I only have a tachometer and a speedometer for you to look at. In between here, I have idiot lights, I call them, but they're just warning lights in case you aren't watching your gauges. Over here, I have a touch screen, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. On either side of the touch screen is air vents for the air conditioning, and back then there's a CD and the cassette player, because they were still popular back then. So take a good look at it. Those gauges are actually on the screen, and then there's menu buttons down the left side and the bottom. And notice my geometric design on the panel there, and that design is also on the door panels. So now let's talk technology. First thing, this thing is independent suspension, but I do want it to be able to drive like a muscle car. So I go a different route. I go with a V6 and have it turbocharged. And if you know, nowadays that's what's happening. We're now using V6s, although they're, well, I wanted overhead cam with mine as well. They didn't have variable valve timing back then that I know of. However, I thought that the V6 would be a much better unit, and I wanted the back differential to also be the transmission, so it would be a transaxle, which would give it better weight biased. Now, I had written a paper explaining all this stuff, but there again, I can't find it, and I think I had to hand type that. I don't think I had a computer at the time to write it up. So I also had active suspension. Now, all I wanted it to do was raise and lower. I wasn't thinking like computer controlled shock absorbers and things like that. But we'll say once you got up to 35 miles an hour, the car would drop about 3, maybe 4 inches. And the ground effects then would take effect and help hold the car down to the ground. The side, the wheels having the solid centers or solid faces and things like that would help the aerodynamics. And I wanted to focus, in other words, so the car would be extremely good at handling. And of course, once you slowed down to 30 miles an hour, we'll say, it would raise back up. So then you could get across speed humps and things like that. I wanted this car to really actually be drivable, just the way you see it. And dimensionally, I believe that what you're looking at here, you know, like the engine will fit underneath the hood. Okay? Because I'll explain what happened in the end with the cars in the competition, that actually the 6 finalists, which just by that you can guess I didn't become a finalist. So now I have the engine transmission arrangement figured out here. Inside I wanted the touch screen to run everything. You would, if you wanted to see your gauges, they were up along the top edge of it. If you wanted to raise or lower the windows, you hit one of the menu buttons that said Windows, and 4 toggle switches would show up on the screen. And by using them, you could raise and lower them. You could lock the doors. You could select your radio stations. Everything was run by that computer. One of my thoughts was, this is not once it's proven out, you can eliminate door handles and all that kind of crap, and having to design that stuff and switches, all that garbage is gone. All you have is a screen. And from there you can work anything. You can check your tire pressures and things like that, although I know they were doing it back then, but I don't know to what level. So I had a car that V6 turbocharged, runs like a rape tape, in the quarter mile, actually handles like a sports car, like it should. Technology wise, it's got everything like a car of today. It was really something I was very proud of. And now that I see that they use the screen, the touch screens and all that in just about all cars, I think, wow, look at how far ahead I was. Now, go on to one thing that I think Ford stole from me. The very first year of the new Mustang, first off, their style and mine wasn't that far apart. It's not real close, but you know, I'll say this, compared to the 6 finalists, mine looked more like the car than theirs did. The taillights on the first year are horizontal. There's 3 bars, 3 lights. Only the first year. Whether this is true, whether I'm telling, this is my belief. I think they saw my car and realized, what were they doing? But I think it was too late for them to change the design. The very next year, the taillights were vertical again, like they had always been on the early Mustangs. And of course, they've been vertical ever since. I think they kind of looked at mine and thought, why didn't we put that on there? Now, the 6 cars that actually got into the finals, I don't even know which one actually won. But here's what I noticed about all of them. Not one of them could you have gotten an engine underneath the hood unless you were using a boxer. These cars were so low, it was ridiculous. Secondly, they all were very much cartoon type drawings. Third, one would say like it's going to be a Viper beater, and it looked like a Viper. Another one said it was, you know, gonna be able to beat some foreign car, I can't even remember, and it looked like that car. And that's pretty much the way they went. But none of them could you have built the way they looked. And I was kind of disappointed because I built it like I would really, you know, like it would really look. So sometimes you might want to think about that when you're designing, when you're competing. You might just have to, well, it's one of these things where you can't show them what really it's going to look like. You got to make it look like something that that actually can't be built. And then you might say tone it down later once you get into the actual construction of it, which is not the way I work. I can't exaggerate, and I realize my car is a little plain. The more I look at it, the less I think it is, but I'm proud of it. And when you do something, regardless of what other people think, you should be proud of it. You're the one who made the effort. And if you don't make an effort, you won't get anything. That's the one thing that you can be guaranteed. So, hope you enjoyed that one. I got plenty more like it. Not with cars too much, but talk to you next time.